Morning guys, let's get ready together. Today is the twins' birthday, so I figured it would be really fun to tell their birth story while I get ready. Little backstory on how the twins came to be twins. We did IVF with Sawyer for our first pregnancy. Weston was like our natural miracle, and then we had 3 embryos left over. We always made a commitment that we would use every single embryo that we had, even if it was like 12. We would have had an insane amount of kids. God gave us 2 with Sawyer's pregnancy and 3 with the twins' pregnancy. We had to sign like a mound of paperwork because normally nowadays they only put in 1 embryo, maybe 2. I knew that I would have to take that pregnancy really easy. I was on bed rest all through the first part of our pregnancy from 5 weeks to about 20 weeks. Because I was bleeding off and on, I had like a blood blister in my uterus that kept re-injuring itself. And then I had about 4 weeks of no bed rest, and then I started contracting, so I was back on bed rest. Around our 20-week anatomy scan, we were also told that Eli had a small hole in his heart that may or may not resolve by the time he was born. We were also told that he had a borderline problematic sized cyst in his brain that may or may not resolve by the time he was born, but there was really nothing they could do about that. But it could be an indication of other genetic disorders that he may have had. Around 24 to 26 weeks was the time that I really started spending a lot of time in the hospital. Lots of overnight stays, lots of monitoring for my contractions, but thankfully I wasn't dilating, I just had a shortened cervix. At 31 weeks, 3 days, I started bleeding again and contracting, and I rushed myself to the hospital that morning. I stayed for I think 36 hours where they gave me medicine to stop my contractions. They gave me the shots that help like mature their lungs. Towards the end of my 36 hours, they said that my contractions had spaced out to about like once every hour and they weren't really that strong. So they were okay with sending me home. They did caution me at the very end, like if anything gets worse, please come right back. It was also Mother's Day weekend and I was really excited to go home because Mother's Day at church is like the best thing ever. And I did really want to go to that service, but we never made it there. Jake picked me up from the hospital that night. We went home, had dinner, went to bed, and around midnight, I woke up in the most excruciating pain I've ever been in my life. I went to the bathroom and I was bleeding. Jake came into the bathroom and he was like, we need to go to the hospital now. His parents were out of town at his sister's graduation from college in Texas. So while I'm getting myself into the car, he had to grab Sawyer and Weston, pack them, throw them in the car, drive the 20 minutes that it took to get to Sam and Cecily's house, drop off our kids there, and then we ran off to the hospital. I don't even remember how close together my contractions were. I just remember they were really painful. They took me back to a room where they got me all hooked up and tried to stop labor. They checked me, but it was a new nurse that was training that checked me, and she said that I was at a 3, but she was very like questioning when she said that. So they continued to give me medication to stop my labor, and then they also gave me a small dose of fentanyl for the pain, but it did absolutely nothing. They were shocked at how much pain I was still in after my dose. And 45 minutes later, they came back in to check me again because I was in so much pain. The nurse didn't even say anything to me. She just leaned over to the little microphone on my bed and pressed the button and said, prep for an emergency C-section, she's at a 7. The rest of it was kind of a blur. Eli was breech, so he was butt down like this, head, butt, feet in my stomach. And then Dallas was transverse. He was head, feet. This was like a triangle. They kind of prepped us mentally. Each baby will have a team of nurses and doctors that will assess them when they're born, and then I would have my own. They prepped me on the table, and a couple weeks earlier I had signed my paperwork to get my tubal done. I'm laying butt naked on the table as my doctor leans over to me and tells me that they cannot find my paperwork and that I've already been given medication, so I cannot consent to like new paperwork to have my tubal done. So my first words to Jake when he walked into the OR were, you're gonna need to get snipped. C-section is like the weirdest feeling you've ever felt in your entire life. It kind of felt like my stomach when I'm on a roller coaster. Also feel people like tugging and pulling at you, but it's not painful. Eli was the first baby out and we heard him cry. He was teeny tiny. He was 3 pounds 6 ounces. They did put like him on my chest for about 10 seconds where I did get one photo with him, and then they took him to assess him. Next was Dallas, but we never heard him cry. I just remember asking over and over, why didn't I hear him cry? Is he okay? But he was having some problems with his lungs, so they had to immediately intubate him, and I couldn't get a photo or anything of him and didn't even know if he was okay. And then Eli quickly followed after that. He did not spend much time in the OR. At that point, it was about 5 o'clock in the morning, and the twins were the first babies born in the hospital on Mother's Day. I told Jake to just follow the twins and make sure that they were okay, that I was going to be totally fine. Ow! I got mascara in my eyeball. Okay, we're back on track. And I went to the recovery area before they took me back to my room. And if you've ever had a C-section or that kind of spinal block or whatever it is, your entire body, as you come off of it, just starts shaking uncontrollably. Shivering, and I was shaking. That was about when Cecily got there. After I got back to my room, my first thing that I really wanted to do was go see the twins in the NICU and just make sure that they were okay. So the nurse got me in a wheelchair and Jake took me down there. But once we got to the NICU, they told me that it was too soon for me to come in and that I wasn't able to see them. It was really, really hard and frustrating. Didn't get to see Dallas until he was 24 hours old. The next day we went down to the NICU. Everything was kind of a blur. I didn't really know what was going on. I was also just extremely exhausted. I remember the new round of nurses tried to come in and update me on like their health status, but at the same time, I didn't know what their original health status was, but they didn't know that. They were telling me things and I was like, I just have no idea what you're even talking about right now. But we were consistently asking about Eli's test that he needed to have done for his brain scan and his heart, and we were overjoyed. Both of the issues had been resolved by the time that he was born. They ended up spending 6 and 7 weeks in the NICU. For the most part, they came home and everything was great. I've talked a whole lot about feeding aversion journey here on TikTok, but we've been told by many doctors and nurses that that is something that a lot of kids are just born with, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it happened because he was premature or because he was in the NICU. We'll just never know. And now they are my wild, rambunctious, crazy little 6-year-olds. Our birthday tradition around here is that on your birthday, you get to pick whatever you want to have for dinner that night. And the twins tonight have requested mac and cheese, turkey roll-ups, and chicken nuggets. So I'm about to go to the grocery store and shop for all of that. With that, thanks for hanging out and just letting me relive my memories. I hope you guys have a great day. Love you. Bye.